Hey chiropractors, we're ready for another modern chiropractic marketing show with Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing strategies, content marketing, direct response marketing, and business development with some of the leading experts in the industry.
Welcome to another weekly episode. In this one, I got an interview with our old friend, Jon Morrison. He's been on the show often, and this is one of those kind of update shows where we need to bring you some updates in the world of marketing, business, communications, things of that nature. And in this episode, we're going to dive into ADA compliance of your website. Yes, ADA is American-based, and I know our audience, we have a nationally based audience and also an internationally based audience. So I still encourage you, if you're outside of the United States, to listen to this episode. Actually, John's from Canada himself, and there will be some things in your particular country that would relate to this, and I think this will spur you on to check with your state or national boards. And we're talking about ADA compliance of your website, just like if you had to build out your office space, there's ADA compliance of many things, and this is no different, and it's becoming more of a reality. It's been it's been a reality for some years, but as John will talk to you about it, there's definitely been more of a focus on that. So we're going to just dive into some of the things you need to look out for. It's not big and scary and not going to cost you tons and tons of money, but there are some things you need to consider for your website to make it ADA compliant, and John is helping out with that. He's revamped, I shouldn't say revamped because didn't have to do a ton, but he's made sure our chiropractic website is ADA compliant, and he's also in the process. We're excited to actually revamp our Chiropractic Success Academy website. We have a website currently, csacircle.com, but we're going to actually make it a more robust Jon Morrison style website and show you all the things that are on there. But the Chiropractic Success Academy is open. You can join anytime. It's month to month. You can pay yearly for a little discount. It's basically attaching kind of a coaching / consulting to your business, and you don't have necessarily one guide to coach you along. You got many, and you got tons of resources, and we've got everything from business to marketing to mindset lessons. We've got the CSA digital dashboard, which really becomes your hub, and we're actually adding a couple new tools to it, but you can develop your marketing plan on there. You can track all your practice analytics. You can track your scorecards for leading and trailing indicators, your editorial calendar, your new patient logs, and you can spit out exactly the percentages and how many you're getting new patients from, say, Google or Facebook or referrals, your network and all that. So there's a lot involved with the Chiropractic Success Academy. And just like you would attach a chiro up to your practice clinically to make sure you're up to speed clinically and your patients are educated clinically, you could attach the CSA to your business to make sure that you're not left on an island and you're getting all the things you need to make sure that your business is prosperous. So check that out at csacircle.com, and you will see over the next couple months, our guest today, Jon Morrison, is going to revamp our website. So enough about that. Here is our ADA compliant episode with Jon Morrison. All right. Welcome to the show, John. I appreciate your time today. We got another one of these little update shows. Always like having you on. You're one of our select few that we do frequent shows. And this information we're going to go over today is, as you'll hear, is the ADA compliance of your websites. And one of the A's is American. So if you're in a different country, I guess our only recommendation right now is to look into what the recommendations or laws are regarding your website. And believe it or not, yes, and John's going to talk about it, your website does need to have certain requirements to be ADA compliant. We're going to dive into that, right, John?
That's right. Kevin, thanks for having me. And it's a privilege to be back. I always like the steak dinners that you send every time I get to be a guest. Hope Darcy knows that, and the other repeat guests. I get steak dinners every time.
Yeah, you're going to get me in trouble.
Just kidding. I do it because I love you and I love our people, and it's this is a big thing. So it's been probably one of the ones I've had to prepare for the most. So I don't know what that's saying. Maybe it'll be the most boring, the most scripted.
It's gonna be useful. It's gonna be useful.
Good. Awesome. Well, yeah, I just want to say, Kev, I'm not a lawyer and this is not legal advice. I'm a website developer for evidence-based chiropractors and the general clinic owners. And this is a huge thing that I've been getting a lot, people texting me and emailing the company. And even you just, I know that you're curious about this too. So I thought we need to get clear on this and know what's, the present realities, the history of the ADA compliance and what people need to, how they can evaluate their own website, whether it's compliant, and what should we do about it too. So we'll have lots of stuff to talk about today. So actually, I'm quite excited because this is new territory for so many people, right? They're busy running a clinic and running a business and taking care of their family, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, really? I got to think about accessibility on my website too, but it's just a reality of doing business today. So,
and I do remember hearing something about this. It might've been a year or two longer. I don't know, but the way I'd heard about it too was the fact that there are attorneys that are going out there and specifically looking for websites that are not following it. And, drumming up business, essentially, unfortunately, like attorneys tend to do. So not to scare anybody there, but it's something that is a reality to start looking at your website. So I know you got 5 key things. And so let's start off with number 1.
Yeah, present reality. I think this is probably heightened in COVID. If you think about if somebody needs a little bit of business, I don't want to say all lawyers are evil, just most are. No, just kidding. If you're a lawyer listening to this, but if you're needing some business and you're locked down and you what's a great way to just find some litigation opportunities? It would be sitting on your couch looking for inaccessible websites, right? So the potential cost, like the average legal fees to fight ADA litigation from my research was about $25,000 and it $10K to settle. So my brother just sent me this tweet the other day. It said, my sister's company just got served and her lawyer is recommending a $10K settlement without even anything. And is
this
anyone
is
else
for this is for the website,
for their website. Yeah. And literally, so that's what defendant lawyers are saying is, just pay the $10K because it's not worth dragging this thing out. You're going to end up paying both legal fees if you lose at $25,000.
So it makes you realize, like, if I were, if you're these attorneys out there, they're just looking at it for, it's like, oh, boom, 10K. Like it's like a cash register by just going to these websites, finding people to complain and then go from there.
Yeah. And, as we're going to say, like, there is a soft side to this, like a social responsibility that we're going to get to as well, that it's like, it's good to be open and have, make it your whole practice as accessible as possible. There are 1 billion people, they say, with disabilities worldwide. And 1 in 4 in North America, from what I've heard, have some kind of disability. So that's opening yourself up to a decent market. So that's the present reality, is that we are in some states are worse than others too. I won't name which states, but people can guess probably pretty quickly which states where most of the litigation is, but it's actually, when it comes to website accessibility, your website has to be accessible to everyone. So it doesn't even matter which state it's in, interestingly enough, from my research that I've found. So
yeah, definitely. So, okay. So 1 is just the present reality.
Yeah. Present reality is just be aware that you are susceptible to litigation if you have a business today, that especially if you're public facing. So if you're in a medical clinic, you're facing the public, you are at risk. If you're like, it's a reality. It's a thing. So secondly is the history. And this was interesting because most of my American history comes from watching Hamilton. So I was able to fill it out a little bit. I don't know if this part made the cutting room floor. I think it got cut, but the ADA actually dates back to America's fundamental foundations, right? The U.S. Department of Justice, or DOJ, was founded in 1870. And then the ADA became part of it when they realized there was a mandate enforced at the courts to create public spaces, parking spaces, wheelchair ramps, where mirrors are placed, all that kind of stuff that when you think of an average building, you know that it has to be accessible. That's all came from the ADA. But it was interesting that unlike the Food and Drug Administration, which is another government-run mandate to protect the public, the ADA is actually enforced not with this federal group, but in the courts. So they said, we'll make laws and the courts will have to enforce it, rather than the FDA having a standard that everyone has to comply with, but it's actually enforced in the courts is how the laws are enforced. So I just found that really interesting, that it's kind of like the onus was put on already cash-strapped small business owners to make sure that they are compliant. So it was pretty great for a little while in the history. And that's why maybe some people say, well, that's not really a big issue because it is mostly about physical spaces. that the accessibility laws are mostly concerned with. But in 2010 of September, it got really clear. The Department of Justice published an Americans with Disabilities Act standards for accessible design. And that's when it became real that the digital world also had to be to these accessibility standards. So, and you know, if you do your own research, you'll find that there's a lot of gray, but that's where lawyers love to play in, right? It's when it's black and white that it's kind of very clear, but the gray is where it can be up for interpretation. And that's why these litigation or lawsuits end up going a long time and costing a lot, is because there is a lot of gray area there.
Yep.
So that's why the third thing that you need to know is about the guidelines. Okay, so eventually someone came out and said, let's come up with what's called WCAG. It's called Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And then they laid out a tier of compliance. So I remember, Kev, we were talking one time, you said compliance, it's like you're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. But it's actually, there's 3 levels of compliance. There's single A, double A, and triple A.
Okay.
Single A, obviously just being the entry level of compliance. Double A is kind of where you want to be, and triple A would be kind of that level that, you know, you somehow have the Uber level of accessibility. So that's how it's structured according to this document, that it is an international document. Okay, so it's not just an American thing, but the WCAG is these guidelines.
Gotcha.
So I don't know, do you want to?
Yeah, let's go through. Yeah, because I mean, because obviously, like, I remember my first thought process was, and I'm sure my audience as well, is like, okay, how do you make a website compliant for someone that is blind or someone that can't navigate it for various reasons? Like, how can you do it? Like, what can you do? And so I think working through some of those, again, this may not be all encompassing, but it's going to help for sure. So roll through some of those. Yeah.
So the first thing that probably will be, you know, when most people think of website accessibility, Kevin, I just love to hear you. The first thing you probably think of is what? What do you think of an accessible website?
Being able to see it.
Okay, being able to see it. Good. But the thing that most people see is the wheelchair. I was hoping you were thinking for the little wheelchair or the guy.
I got you. Like what kind of, yeah.
You think of that little guy, that little icon, and it's in usually the bottom left corner, sometimes the top left, sometimes the top right or bottom right, whatever it is, they put it. But you can click on that, and then all of a sudden, it allows the website to run through certain filters. It can make the fonts bigger. It can focus. It can reduce flash, stuff like that. So that's kind of when most people think of accessibility. That's where they would go. But that alone doesn't actually work. But it's huge to get you far. Okay, so according to that document I was talking about, the WCAG, there's just 4 things that we're going to talk about, and it's an acronym called POUR, POUR. The first one is perceivable. So like you said, you can see it. So one of the things that I found was interesting was you got to make sure that there's color contrast, right? So you don't want to have a white background and then a very light gray font.
What about if it's all red and green?
Yeah, if it's red,
because
so
males, a lot of males are colorblind red green.
Right. At Christmas time, it's not going to work that well either. Your Christmas promotion could be in jeopardy of putting you in litigation. But yeah, being aware, like, so that's one of the things that little widget will do. If you install it, it'll help you with the color contrast. But if you don't have it, or even if you have it, you know, it's still good to be cognizant of this. So if you have a black background, put all white font, or just we'll say a dark background, put a light font on it so it's easy to see. Also clear heading. So the way the site is structured. So I don't know, I don't want to geek out too much, but some people who have built out their site will know some things like H1 tags. That's kind of the banner to describe what the page is all about. Yeah. And then your title tags going forward. So it's like a chapter heading and subheading. Those need to be clearly laid out what the content is. And again, you could see why this would be subjective, right? Because what's clear to one person might not be clear to the others, but that's the kind of stuff. If you are prepared and you've shown that you have taken these things into consideration, you'll be a lot more protected and a lot further ahead than I'd say most people. I think the research was that 97% of websites are not compliant. And I mean, that's why there's so much opportunity for people to pursue litigation right now, right? But if you've taken some of these steps, then you are way further ahead. You are not one of the easy targets, let's just say. And that's what people that do this to hurt others, you know, or to enforce the law, maybe whatever they're doing. But that's what they're going to do, is they're going to go after the easy targets. Yeah. So perceivable, things are easy to see, high contrast, clear headings, clear structure to the website. And then operable. So one of the things that is important with accessibility is that you can navigate your website with a keyboard without a mouse. So some people just can't operate a mouse and they need to use the keyboard. So that's one of the things that you just got to make sure that you can do that. Talk to your web developer, say, is this a thing? Can we do it with ours? Or, I think most websites these days, like a Squarespace or our template, our platform has that. A website should always give readers enough time to read through the content. Okay. So how many people have the old fashioned slideshows on their site, and the stuff's just you have all this text embedded in a JPEG. So that's another thing that's not a no-no, is to have images with text inside of it, because they can't be read, right? And it flies by. I mean, I'm pretty fast reader. I listen to my podcasts on 2 times. I'm a fast talker, if you couldn't tell already, but I can read pretty fast. And some people's slideshows are just flying. Like when I was doing all those MCM website audits, I was trying to watch people's banners and they're just flying by me. Okay. So that would be a big no-no, is that it's hard to operate and know what those banners are saying. Understandable. So this was so interesting, and you'll appreciate this as a StoryBrand fan, but according to the WCAG, you need to limit jargon and abbreviations. Okay. So things that people don't necessarily understand. And we've been talking about this for 4 years now, right? Like,
being clear.
Keep your syllable count low, make the language simple, grade 6 level. But that's one of the things that the WCAG will look for, or at least advises to make a website compliant, is not too much jargon, not too many abbreviations.
All right, Docs, here is a new opportunity for you from Darcy Sullivan of Propel. She is our SEO specialist in helping out many chiropractors with their search engine optimization and making sure Google is finding you and getting you new patients. It's amazing how many new patients chiropractors can get and are getting when they do the SEO right, and a few other things. And Darcy is offering a free SEO workshop just for chiropractors, and you can sign up for that at bit.ly/propelmcm. That is bit.ly/propelmcm, Modern Chiropractic Marketing, right? And so check out that link, and we're going to have you go over 5 SEO secrets to owning the first page of Google without buying ads. And Darcy's going to give that free workshop, 1 hour, to really help grow your practice and start churning new patients from the ever mighty Google, which is still king in the online marketing. So check that out at bit.ly/propelmcm for the 1 hour free workshop.
The fourth one, so perceivable, operable, understandable, and then robust, which means it's easy to read. It can go with a text assistant widget. So you have that. And then this is an interesting thing too, is that your images have alt text in them. So the reason why we do this is because if you are blind or you're having trouble seeing, then the software that you probably use as your assistant will tell you what the pictures say, but the assistant doesn't know, right? Yeah. But if you have an alt text, like this is a picture of a guy running, or this is a picture of a woman in her 20s being active in the gym, or something like that, right? If you have the alt text in there, then the assistant can read it. And I think that's an important thing that maybe some websites already have that, because, as we'll say in a second, it's actually good for your SEO. Right?
It is. Yeah, because that's interesting, because I've obviously heard that talked about a lot, and having the alt tags on your images from an SEO perspective, but I didn't realize there was the functionality of it for someone that, because just to make sure our audience is clear, if someone is obviously completely blind and they can't visually see the website at all, they tend to have their own type of software that will verbalize audio, obviously, the website. And so that particular software would catch the alt tags on the image and tell them, young female running, whatever, right?
Yeah, okay, exactly. Perfect. Great. Yeah, so you just want to make it as easy as possible for that software to be able to do its job and to help people. Perfect. All right. So far we looked at the present reality, the history, the guidelines, and now we'll look at our responsibility as business owners. Yep. The first thing, as we've touched on, is our social responsibility. I just think it's the right thing to do, right? Like you would never belabor the fact that if someone was in a wheelchair, you would never want to keep them from your office, right? From coming, especially if you had a child who had disabilities, or a spouse or a friend or a grandparent. If you were sending them to a chiropractic office across the country, you'd hope that guy or gal that was leading that office would have made provisions for them, right? So just as the same, right? It's just it's the right thing to do to make a website that's accessible, just like we would do with our offices. Okay. Perfect. So, and I don't think many people, that's not too controversial, but
no, you just, I had an experience a couple years ago that was cool. It was interesting. It's like, because I built out my office and there was a lot of things we had to do for ADA compliance. Sometimes you don't even think about it. Like one was, we had this front desk built out and we had to have at least one section that was low enough that someone in a wheelchair could easily be able to write on and stuff like that. And so we had to have it retrofitted and built out. And we did that. And then, the bathroom, we have a bathroom that's in our suite that is used by patients, and the sink is really low. The toilet is lower than normal. Like you wouldn't build your residential bathroom like ours is. And it's actually pretty wide. But I have this one patient who, we passed all the things and our bathroom was completely ADA compliant. But I had this particular patient who's a double amputee that's in a wheelchair and things like that. And one of the things he noticed when he used the bathroom, he's like, "Oh, your bathroom is really great." And I'm sure it passed, obviously. He's like, "But you don't have handrails, right?" And I kind of, because like for the toilet, like to get off a toilet, obviously for him it was a challenge, and the handrails definitely help. So I went and got it done. Like, it cost me like $500 to have it all done, but that week I got it done. And it was just like a learning lesson for me to get that feedback and obviously make it to where, and so I'm just telling the story too, because I think it's a good sidebar for our audience that have certain build outs of their facility, is like, look at any of these points where there could be an issue in your physical space, which is no different obviously than in your website space. And it's now, since 2010, part of the ADA compliance. So look at it just like you would having an elevator. If you're on the second floor, you need an elevator, right? So things like that.
Yeah. And it would be so easy just to dismiss it as, oh, this is a digital thing and there's not a clear mandate. But, if you ask the question, are things going more digital or less digital?
Yeah.
Where are they progressing? It's only going to get more important. And so to be ahead of this is going to put yourself light years ahead of other people in your area. And that's going to protect you from the second one. So the second reason, like that thing that's your responsibility, is it protects you and your colleagues from litigation. Right. And I think, nobody wants to get hit with a $10,000 fine or a $25,000 bunch of legal fees.
Yep.
It wouldn't be good for you. It wouldn't be good for your family, your stress level. I mean, who's not stressed enough already? And what if you have to cut an associate or something like that? Right. So it really does protect you from litigation. And I think, and so that's your responsibility as a business owner to get ahead of this and protect your people.
Perfect. Hey, Doc, are you moving office spaces, or you're a startup with your own new space, or you're like me where you need renovations because it's starting to look a little worn after about 10 years like ours is? Crossfield's Chiropractic Office Design is here to elevate you wherever you're at, and they're going to help maximize your space and flow. They're going to really help attract and retain patients, and this is going to have a great ROI on your investment when you increase that patient experience. So check out Chiropractic Office Designs by Crossfields, and we have a special link for Modern Chiropractic Marketing listeners, and that is www.chiropracticofficedesign.com/Kevin-Christie. And with that, you're going to have discounts. We're going to have direct links to a mega bundle of free resources, and you can check them out, and you can get 15 of our most popular floor plans, 5-phase checklist for a startup office, 5-point designer checklist to evaluate your current office image. And there's 30% off on all online products when you go to www.chiropracticofficedesign.com/Kevin-Christie.
Thirdly, your responsibility, like the third point I have it here, is you reach more people, right? And so who wouldn't want 25%, to reach 25% more of the market? Because you better believe somebody with disabilities is very much aware when trying to find a chiropractor or, a PT that they're looking for when they need help. They're going to be looking for this kind of stuff. Like, do they care about people like me? Which is what all of your ideal patients are doing the same. That's why we focus so much on the messaging and the images and stuff. So it's just really the extension of your patient-centered care is to kind of show that you can do patient-centric marketing and including those who have disabilities and thinking about them. And you never know, other people, like one of the things that I'll just throw this in that I realize that we should do is whenever we launch an accessible website, we're going to put a blog in there saying, hey, this is a value of ours that we accept people no matter what they're struggling with. And it's part of our inclusion and our commitment to diversity. right? And this is something that we value. And so we've invested in this and we're just celebrating it. So if you have a disability or if you have whatever it is that you're struggling with, we want you to know that you are welcome here, and just highlighting that. So maybe it's a little bit of back patting, but it's also just a chance to talk about your values of the kind of patients that you want to help, the kind of people that you believe you can make a difference in their life, and just use it as a chance to celebrate what you do as part of your messaging. So it looks like a tiny little icon in the bottom, but really you could throw a big party that this is the kind of thing that these are the kind of people that you like to help. So, and then we talked about this part of our responsibility is that it's great for your search engine optimization. If you're the guys at Google, you're watching this too. Like those guys are light years ahead of us in so many things, right? I would imagine, even though the Google algorithm is, a mystery shrouded in an enigma, right? I don't really know everything about the Google algorithm, but I could bet that those guys sitting around there are saying, if 25% of the population has a disability, then we're going to want to promote the websites that have some of these things, like an accessibility statement. Like the Google algorithm can read that accessibility statement. It knows if there's a widget on there. Now, maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I would bet that that's the kind of experience that Google wants. Those are the kind of the websites, the kind of people that it seems are trustworthy, the kind of people that Google wants to point people to. But, if we talk to our friend Darcy about this, she's going to tell us that things like I've been talking about, like adding alt tags to images and page titles and making sure your H1 is clear about what the page is talking about with the keywords in place. You better believe that that's a great way to organize and structure a website for your SEO purposes, but it's just like it transfers so well into accessibility. So I jumped up and started cheering when I read that, and I was thinking about that is a great reason to make an accessible website that's going to help you in your search. And who doesn't want to be ranked a little higher? Not many people that I know would if they can make a change like that would do that. So that's those are the 4 things that I got so far. And lastly, Kev, my guess is that a lot of people are thinking, this just seems overwhelming to me. Like, I don't know what an H1 tag is. I don't know what an alt text is. I don't even know how to build a website at all. So I would just say, if this is out of your comfort zone, you at least need to know this. Okay. So this is why, if it feels like we're talking too fast or talking above your head, just rewind everything and start again. It'll be good for Kevin's algorithm too, right? Your analytics will go up too. But listen to this again. And just kind of make sure you understand the concept, right? You need to understand the concepts. It's just a part of doing business these days, is understanding accessibility and being aware, especially when it comes to your digital presence. But then I would say lean on the people who do understand these words, so that someone who does know where to place an H1 tag, or someone knows how to do a page title, or alt text on an image, or how to put in an accessibility widget on a website. Just lean into the people that do know, that are in your corner, that maybe they're managing your website for you, or at least maybe that nephew who knows that stuff. Or hey, if you're a Clinic Sites client or want to be one, talk to our team. This is something that we've really been focusing on in the last bit. So there's help available and people that understand this stuff. So you just have to be able to guide them, because here's the thing, like, I bet you might surprise your website designer will never admit this, but you'll probably surprise them by saying, I need to make sure my website's ADA compliant, because like I said, it's not on most people's radar. But if you're a clinic, you're a public facing business, that will be looked at first for this, right? So there's that. There's the help. That's the people that understand the websites and technology better than you. Lean on them for this to make sure that you're covered. And then secondly, this is one of the things that I love too, is there's help available from the federal government, certainly in the States. In Canada and other countries, I can't necessarily speak for them. There's grants that are become available. I know in British Columbia, where I call home, there's a provincial grant that you can get. But I just looking at this, there's up to, if you make either less than $1 million a year, or if you have less than 30 employees. So those are the 2 criteria, either less than $1 million or less than 30 employees. You're actually eligible for a $10,000 tax credit, and it's an actual annual thing. So Kev, even the year that you did all that renovations to make your clinic more accessible, you're actually available the next year to get another $10,000.
Yeah, it's like even I'm not sure. Just again, sidebar. Some of the chiropractic tables that elevate and stuff.
Mhm.
So some of the tables we have are ADA compliant, and there's a tax credit on that as well. So a
That's
little
great.
food for thought for our audience.
So here's the thing that I mean, everyone's going to have to talk to their own accountant because,
Yep.
you know, we're like I'm pulling a Joe Rogan here. I'm just a guy having a conversation, right? But we are just guys having a conversation, trying our best to help. But at the end of the day, you got to talk to your lawyer and your accountant on this too. But I think this is what the accountant is going to say based on what I've been learning in this is that if you are building a website for the very first time, you might not be eligible for the credit. Just like if you were building a brand new building, Kevin, you'd be expected by the government and the law to have wheelchair ramps. And, you know, if you're building 2 floors, you're expected to have an elevator. You're not eligible for that. But if you're renovating your existing place to make it more accessible, then you are eligible for that. So if you have an existing website and you say, I need to turf this thing because I don't know, I want to build a new website that's more accessible, it's actually going to be a lot easier for you to be, you know, to know for certain that you're covered by that. But your accountant is going to know that better. But someone just starting that doesn't have a website is going to have a lot more harder time proving that they're eligible for that credit. So I don't know if that helps at all, but
I think it's definitely a conversation for the accountant to figure out.
Totally. But don't leave money on the table is what I'm saying. Is if you want to invest in a website and get it built from the ground up with all the proper structures in place to make it accessible, then, you know, then talk to your accountant, because there's a huge opportunity to get like 50% of your website paid for in tax credit, which is wonderful, right? Who wouldn't want that? So
yeah. Perfect. Good. And I'll put it in the show notes. And then do you have a link or anything like that where they have more information on this?
Yeah, I have some stuff, just, you know, some of the links that I've been getting my information so they can send their fact checkers on it. Also the stuff from the IRS about the tax credit is great. Just a plug for clinic sites. This was a cool story is my brother is the brains behind our platform that we built. And I just kind of came to him a little while ago and said, like, Matt, what are we doing about this compliance thing? And he goes, you know, at the base of our platform, we've made it compliant. I guess when he was studying at tech school several years ago, one of the first textbooks they gave him was accessibility online. And so he had the platform built together with his partner, and they built it with accessibility. So if you are a Clinic Sites or, you know, formerly Get Clear client, then you can know that your website was built with the fundamentals of at least that single A compliancy. Now you can get an upgrade for the widget and the accessibility statement and the blog. We can do all that, but it's cool to know that at its heart, like at the core of our platform is ADA compliance, and that to me is just like, oh, what a great story! I really need to get on Kevin's podcast to share that.
Good,
tell somebody, because my wife wasn't interested. That's for sure.
No, she didn't care. I'm sure.
Oh, she didn't care.
Cool, man. Well, I really appreciate your time. How can they reach out to you if they want to chat with you about this?
Yeah, you can reach out to me either through the group, the MCM group. I'm always love having conversations there. They can reach me through my email, jon@clinicsites.co, or find me at
CO or CA.
CO. This one's CO. Okay. .co, or you could find me at Parker, where I'm going to be in after this is aired, I'm sure. But I'm really looking forward to hanging out with my friends at Parker in Vegas coming up.
Yeah,
it's my first event.
I wish I could be there.
Well, you'll have other cool things going on at the time. So
yeah, I'm excited for sure. But all right, cool, John. I really appreciate your time today, and we'll be chatting again soon.
Thanks, Kevin. It's a privilege to be here.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Modern Chiropractic Marketing Show. Before you leave, make sure you check out our website. We've got blogs and podcasts and all kinds of great info at www.modernchiropracticmarketing.com. We also have a closed Facebook group of the same name where a lot of like-minded chiropractors are workshopping ideas and making sure that we have this continual advancement of marketing, business, mindset, and just growth of your practice. So check us out, modernchiropracticmarketing.com, and the Facebook group of the same name.